Previously, Zhu Ouyang woke up one day and gained the powers of Sharingan from Sasuke. However, he learns he can stop time and see information about others. But instead of saving the world, he practices his powers on his classmates first. He starts with his crush, Kim Ran, and also tries it on the lovable Park Naeon. He also gets revenge on his bully named Jungjun, where he practiced his newfound Superman strength. The story then continues with Ouyang explaining to Naeon that he isn't dating Ran. As such, everything's all fine and dandy, but Ouyang activates his powers to find out that Naeon has a tendency to be attracted to strong males, like Harambe. He then uses this to his advantage as he watched her interest level fill up as fast as a fever. And just like in any game, he attempted everything to fill up the bar, allowing him to successfully complete his domination quest. Within seconds of the quest completion, Ouyang begins to gain even more power as his stats begin to increase. He then smirks and thinks to himself that it was way too easy, so he continues on and asks if she wants a banana since she's lacking some potassium. She then salivates at the thought of a banana, but he's just like nah and says he has to run out to go to the grocery, causing Naeon to speak French in frustration. As such, Ouyang's face goes deadpan since he forgot to bring his phone with Duolingo to translate, but lucky for him, Naeon is ready to teach him the love language. Nevertheless, they continue on with the impromptu lesson, but they get too excited, so the entire neighborhood ends up hearing them. Eventually, he's had enough with the lesson, so he activates his eye again to fully download Naeon's deepest secrets into his membrane. Afterwards, he continues on by taking off her glasses so she doesn't get a headache. Suddenly, he transforms into a jackhammer to gain a brand new skill that overwhelms a target's brain after every hit. He accidentally uses it on Naeon, so she begins to go wild, but he just goes along with it. With his newfound skill causing an increase in loudness, his red-head neighbor begins to get angry. Eventually, Nami slams her desk and gets ready to confront our Demon King. She then heads out with fists in hand, unaware that Ouyang is currently extremely focused on bettering his craft. Meanwhile, Ouyang finishes his brain link with Naeon, who seemingly is in utter bliss of his newfound skill. His skill is so overpowered that Naeon begins to feel super free, just like I do when I reach the toilet. Anyways, Ouyang seals the deal by giving his phone to Naeon so she could put in her number, which she easily obeys, so she finally has become part of the harem. Now inducted, he lets Naeon even call him her boyfriend. They are then interrupted by some noise outside the door. Ouyang then goes to investigate as his curiosity gets the better of him, only for him to find Nami, who passive-aggressively reminds him that she's his neighbor. However, she gets a bit shocked to see that Ouyang has built some mass, so she ends up stammering a bit as she gets flustered at the sight of the future god. She then also begins to shake, totally confused as to what's happening to her, causing Ouyang to ask if she's alright. Her body begins to move as if she has no control, only for Nami to keep thinking that there's no way Ouyang has become ripped like my pants. She then realizes that maybe the weakling Ouyang has been her type all along. With her acting super weird, Ouyang summons his eye and begins taking a closer look. This time it's revealed that Nami's interest has gone from an abysmal 0 to 11, just within one day. Thus, he takes the ripe opportunity and chats her up. However, she begins attempting to shyly bring up the earlier loud noises, only to find herself unable to fully express herself in front of the top gate. Suddenly, Naeon Ferrari peeks the corner, sending Nami into a state of shock. Now stun-locked, all Nami could hear is Naeon calling her sister. With the turntables, a brand new domination quest has been created, as apparently, the target now feels hostile rather than docile. In just mere seconds, Nami leaves one piece to reveal she's actually from planet Namek. Regardless, she fiercely utters the words, "Can we talk for a moment?" Fast forward to your typical coffee shop where we find Ouyang awestruck at the fact that his neighbor was actually Naeon's sister. A flashback then occurs showcasing Nami screaming at Naeon to head back home. She then demanded Ouyang to follow her, where we now find Ouyang stuck with the fierce redhead Nami. Although she's upset with him, a domination quest appeared, telling Ouyang to make sure he wins over Nami before the allotted time runs out. If he's able to complete the quest within 1 week, he gains an insane bonus 3 levels and an increase of 10 bonus charm stats. With the crazy reward, he begins to plan his way of conquest as Nami was his type anyways. As he daydreams, he gets brought back to life as Nami shouts right at him. However, another notification appeared claiming that failure to complete the quest will make him lose his abilities. Within just 2 seconds, Ouyang became a dang. From dreaming to instantly on edge, and not that type of edge. Regardless, some more helpful game tips popped up, letting him know that as long as Nami is hostile, she will not be gaining any interest levels, causing Ouyang to start being a little scared. As Nami continued on berating him, all Ouyang could think about is how he can punish Nami so he can finally get the quest over with. As such, he proceeded to nervously drink until he was able to finally focus. Unfortunately, The first thing he heard is Nami telling him to never meet Nayoung ever again, as she slams the table and explains that Nayoung needs to study instead of getting distracted, which is why she's in a repeat school. She then gets so mad that she inadvertently helped Ouyang out as she's publicly feeling humiliated. Feel even more humiliated as more eyes began to drift towards them. Without even lifting a single finger, Nami's humiliation level has already went up to 8. After her tirade, she begins to excuse herself and heads out the door. However, she gets stopped on her tracks as Ouyang finally speaks up. He decides that his move to make her more angry by telling her that there's no way he would leave Nayoung alone. As such, Nami turns angrily towards him, only for Ouyang to begin finger-wagging with utmost sass. Now feeling embarrassed, Ouyang gets up and activates his powers to take advantage of the opportunity before him, by explaining to a frozen Nami that even though the duo is combined as one, it doesn't mean they are dating. They're claiming that Nami is partially resisting his ability, as she's busy telling him off. Nevertheless, she realizes that she can't move at all. As he doesn't want the room to get too hot, he helps her out. Nami is then stricken to see what's happening, but all Ouyang does is mention that she's his type. He then goes Demon Lord style and says if she doesn't want him seeing Nayoung, then he'll start by seeing her instead. He then proceeded her first ever annual inspection, but she begins to retaliate as she's actually strong enough to weaken his ability. She asks if he's gone crazy, but all Ouyang does is act innocent. Regardless, she begins to warn him that she's going to be a lawyer, and when she's done with him, he better not ever drop the soap. Unfortunately for her, Ouyang tells her to look around, explaining that everything is frozen and no one will ever know what's happening. Not even advanced cameras can detect his true powers. Nevertheless, we begin to time skip as he slips into his jackhammer costume. For those brave enough, this is chapter 14, page 69. Sorry, editor. Anyways, upon the arrival of the next day, it's occurred to me that Ouyang has become a mushroom, as he calls himself a fun guy. Ouyang was in Blox Fruits. He'd be on the verge of becoming mythical already. With his strength level just above 10, he begins to pack even more muscle. Now, while he was trolling before, he begins to think that he might actually get powerful enough to be an actual demon king. He begins to cry as he doesn't even have enough to buy ramen, so he murmurs to himself that he's broke as hell even though he has crazy superpowers. So it's not to, as it would ruin his pride. But Bro suddenly remembered he can stop time, so he hurries on to the nearest convenience store. Upon arriving, he hesitates as he thinks stealing is evil, but somehow everything else he's done is apparently not evil.